Hello, this is my informative speech, and I only have one audience member. I'll just around and show her. There she is. So, this speech is about language learning, and about 7 years ago, I got a Groupon for an 8-week course, an 8-week French course. And so, I took the course, and I thought it was okay. I didn't learn too much. But one of the things I did learn from one of my classmates was that there was a large language learning community online. And he gave me the name of a website called fluentin3months.com. And I'm just on a whim, I checked it out, and I saw that there was a man on there who had a bunch of opinions about how to learn languages, and through him, he reviewed different techniques, and I found other people online who had their own opinions about how to learn languages, and pretty soon I kind of fell down that rabbit hole and used that to learn a fair amount of French and a decent amount of Spanish, and I kind of brushed up on my German that I took back in high school. One of the things that all these people agreed on, and they didn't agree on a lot, but one of the things they all agreed on was you didn't have to take classes with people. You could learn by yourself, and then you could go online when you were ready, and you could learn a language fairly well just on your own for the majority of the part. Now, one of the things that people don't like is grammar. And so we have, there's a language learner online called Steve Kaufman. He said basically you could ignore grammar at the beginning. It's too difficult, it's not something, it's too scientific or something. It's not, you don't need to sit there and study grammar tables and declension tables in order to learn a language well. It's not necessary. When we're kids, we don't know anything about grammar. We just pick it up from listening to people and repeating what they say. And Steve Kaufman had a fellow language learner online called Ollie Richards, and Ollie Richards said that you should only learn phrases, not just words by themselves. If you learn phrases, you can connect phrases together, and that's kind of how language comes into being. It's not just singular words. You learn phrases and hook them together, and you can learn languages better that way. And they also say that when you do try to learn grammar, you should start when you're at an intermediate level with language learning. That was one of their arguments, that when you have a good base in the language, you understand it a fair amount, then you can go to grammar, you can buy the grammar books, and you can do that, and it's not too intimidating then, because I think grammar is very intimidating for people. Something else they also kind of debate back and forth about these language learners online is when to speak. Going back to Steve Kaufman, he says that you should listen first. You can listen to podcasts, you can buy books on language learning and listen to that. You should listen a lot and listen to the same thing over and over and listen to something that's interesting for you. If it's not interesting, you're not going to keep up with it. You're going to get bored. You're not going to learn the language. Your mind's going to drift. It's not going to be very interesting to you. So when it comes to when to speak, Steve Kaufman says you should wait a while. You should listen first. Now, the guy I talked about earlier who did the website Fluent in 3 months, his name is Benny Lewis. He says you should speak from day one. He thinks you should start even if you only know a few words. You should start speaking, and you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes doing this. So he says you should just get that intimidation out of the way. Speak from day one. People will be kind enough to you. They're not going to look down on you. So that's something he thinks is important. It gets you kind of out of that fear zone. It gets you going, gets you kind of off to the races, as they say. So that's what he thinks about speaking. He doesn't think it's something you should hold back on. Something else that the language learners online kind of debate back and forth is when you get comfortable with learning languages, you want to learn more than one at a time. You want to see if you can tackle two. Should you tackle two that are the same type, like Spanish and French? Should you take German? Should you kind of differentiate between them? What should you do? And going back to Steve Kaufman, he and Ollie Richards say you should probably only learn one at a time. If you focus on one for 6 months or 8 months, your language learning level will be a lot higher than if you were to try to do 2 or even 3 different languages. It's something they just don't agree on. There's a really famous language learner called Richard Simcott. This is from his website Speaking Fluently. He blogs on there, and he says that you can learn more than one at a time. It's not really, he doesn't really recommend it, but he says you can do it. So he's a little more flexible on that. Learning more than one at a time is harder, he says, but if you really have the passion for it, you can make it work. So in conclusion, I think think language learning is really interesting, and it's interesting to see all these different people online and all their different opinions. They say, of course, there's no right or wrong way, but they have their methods that work for them. That's one of the things they always say is, even if it works for me, it might not work for you. The main thing is it's a very fun experience, and it's something that, enriches their lives and makes them happy. So, okay, thank you very much.